Alright, Indonesia sucks. Day 14, I believe. So I think from now on I will put, a subtitle to the title, boycott, and it'll be something. So this one will be boycott Indonesia. The next one might be boycott Nike, something like that in the titles. As I stated before, I do intend to create a page of just these kinds of videos, writing some stuff about the circumstance and pointing out that Indonesia is a terrorist nation. Their laws are fundamentally based on terrorism as a form of justice. And it's a simple truth. I mean, they intend to terrorize their population into obedience. They don't wish to earn obedience or respect for their laws. They merely intend to scare people horribly with draconian punishments. So I think that's a very good thing for people to understand here, that that's the distinction between civilized people and uncivilized people. Is civilized people seek justice, where uncivilized people seek an end, and they will take their end at an unjust means. So, So I think calling them a terrorist nation is perfectly reasonable. Call Indonesians terrorists is perfectly reasonable. They have a democracy and they've chosen to terrorize people who come to their country, or people who might end up in their country for some reason or another because they need a job. So anyway, the other thing I'd point out is, okay, on the boycott, I'll post a link to Forever Wolf Films to the video, sort of getting her ball rolling, so to speak, and that's good. And I think it's another form of, it's not terrorism, but it is a punitive thing, and I'd rather not be punitive. I'd rather some country, Nike, why don't you rescue Derived Energy? Rescue him, Nike. And then I won't have to sit there and point out how you suck. I can point out what a great company you are, what a hero you are. So why doesn't some corporation doing business in Indonesia save these people? Be a hero, fuckers. Yeah, I'll applaud. Will applaud you. I'll applaud you. I might point out that, shit, you should have already done this long ago. You should do this before you even go into a country, let it be known that you're going to require them to be civilized, and not just to your employees. I mean, that's kind of bullshit. But it seems obvious that probably does go on. More reason, to find it obnoxious. So anyway, but yeah, there's nothing happens unless you force it to happen, and you can't negotiate from a weak position. You have to assume you have a position to negotiate from. And I was wrong in assuming that progressives, atheists, thinkers would, generally speaking, be against the drug war, and generally speaking would be for liberty, and generally speaking would be against terrorism as a form of justice. But apparently not, because they're petty assholes who only care about themselves. So as long as they can't get drafted, it's okay to draft somebody else. As long as they can't get raped, it's okay to rape somebody else. They obviously have no decency or reasonable ethics. They just plain suck as human beings, as it's turning out to be the truth. The huge blight of atheism is the first wave of atheists are obviously going to be people who have a personal incentive to become atheists. They're scuzzy human beings. They don't like moral or ethical judgment, and so therefore they're all way happy to become atheists because they'd like to believe there's no justice or no God to impose any authority on them, because they know they suck and they'd be convicted of sucking, and they don't want to suck and be convicted of sucking. So that is a real huge liability. That the first wave of atheists are going to be the shittiest of the atheists, the shittiest of the human beings. Will jump the religious ship first, unfortunately. I never really thought about that, but that's the simple truth of it. I mean, I thought about how, the reasonable people, the sensible people will figure out that it's a fable. I mean, so obviously a fable. I mean, it almost breaks my brain when I start thinking about it, because I'm saying, how did anybody fall for this in the first place? How do people even still argue this shit? Why am I even having this conversation with the human race? This is goddamn too silly for words. So yeah, I'm stuck. Because apparently the average human is dumb as a rock. I mean, really, they can't tell Santa Claus from, I don't know, an oak tree. I don't know. So anyway, I don't want to make a long video, so just keep plugging away at the old suck part. Oh yeah, I did want to just point out that, I couldn't, the video I have, the theory about the insurance policy, I don't know, it was like Indonesia 8? I can't remember. Well, anyway, I keep screwing up on which video it is, so I'm just going to say it again. Look, the idea would be is that for countries like Indonesia, ones of troublesome circumstances for citizens to go to, that the national government would make an extradition agreement with Indonesia, and a certain amount of money would have to be paid for them to have jurisdiction over certain violators of law in their country. And the people seeking a visa to one of those countries would have to pay a tax to pay these fees for the number of people that we have to extradite to rescue from dungeon prisons. So, yeah, it would get more expensive to travel to Indonesia, obviously more expensive to do business in Indonesia if the government had to keep saving people, because it would have to pay a fee to save somebody. But it would also create positive incentives in that the government would have an incentive to be kind of careful about who it let go over to these other countries, because it wouldn't want to have to, raise the insurance rates. And likewise for businesses. So Indonesia would win because it would also get a higher grade of person going to their countries, and in terms of at least not being capable of violating their laws, less likely to violate their laws. But yeah, obviously the downside would be the more the Indonesians want to play games, little terrorist games with our population, yeah, the less likely anybody's going to do business in Indonesia, because it'll cost too much money to get their employees over there. The management employees anyway. So yeah, I think that's enough. But that's the idea I had. I think it's a good idea. I think it solves the problem anyway. And because a civilized country should not allow its citizens to be in dungeons in foreign lands for nonsense crimes. It's ludicrous. It just is. It's ludicrous and should be stopped. So find a way to stop it. Either support what I'm saying or come up with your own idea, but we got to do something, because doing nothing isn't working.